We are back when the Giants and Dodgers played in New York. My name is Ralph Tyko. My co-host is Peter V. Trunk Sr. Welcome back to the airways, Peter V.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you very much.
Good. I'm glad you're here. We have a very special guest, a fellow Brooklyn Dodger historian. Fellow to you. I could consider myself a New York Giant historian. And his name is Robert Cole. He's from Brooklyn, New York. And before I forget to do this later on down the road, I want you, Robert Cole, first a little sound check, hear your voice. How you doing, my friend?
Doing very well, Ralph. Thank you.
Good. Tell me about your Brooklyn Dodger website.
Yeah, and Perter Trunk is also a key contributor to that website. It's BrooklynDodgerMemories.com. We talk mostly Brooklyn Dodgers, but we also talk New York Giants, New York Yankees, basically New York baseball.
Beautiful. Basically what we do right on these airs, Peter.
Yes.
We all three, I've known you, Robert, for years on Facebook and the baseball sites on Facebook. I didn't know of your off-Facebook website until this evening. So it's funny how the word gets out, and even with all the technology, we're pretty much tuned to a little microcosm of the website on Facebook. There's a lot out there in terms of ball. I want to ask you, Robert, we've talked, Peter and I have talked on the air many, many times. I want to ask you, what's your first memory of Brooklyn Dodger baseball? You grew up in Brooklyn?
Yes.
First
grew up in Brooklyn. Probably the 1952 World Series. Okay, in which case I was 5 years old. My father, grandfather, and older brother were tremendously big Brooklyn Dodger fans, and basically probably right from the diaper I was a Brooklyn Dodger fan. But my first memory was probably the 52-53 World Series.
Did you hear that? Did we lose it?
I heard it. I heard him.
Okay. Robert, are you still here?
Yes.
Oh, good, because I heard this strange noise. I'm sorry. 52 World Series?
Correct. Yeah. And as I was saying, I was born probably like Peter into the Brooklyn Dodgers. My father, grandfather, and older brother were big Brooklyn Dodger fans.
Let me ask you a question, Robert, if I might. Did your dad play any baseball?
Nothing organized, no.
How about you?
Me, Ralph?
I played up through high school.
You played in Brooklyn?
No, we moved out to Long Island in 1958.
Oh, okay. All right, I see. A lot of
coincided with the Dodgers moving out to Los Angeles that very year.
Yeah,
basically the same thing. Yes.
Yeah, giving up on Brooklyn was not an easy thing. What brought your parents out to the island?
The general thing at that time, just wanting a house. We had lived in a 3-family brownstone in Brooklyn, and they were looking for the typical 3-bedroom house with a backyard and a front yard and all. Right.
Did you, when you moved, did you miss it? Was it a big adjustment living out in the island?
Yes. Yes. I thought I was going to spend the rest of my days by myself without any friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sure that changed quickly.
My first week in Massapequa, I thought I was all by myself and I'd never see anybody again.
Okay. And Peter, you eventually moved to New Jersey.
Yes, my father was a school teacher, and he was at the time that we lived in Brooklyn, he taught at St. John's University. He was a professor of English literature. Believe it or not, the high school teachers in Newark, New Jersey, in 1948, 49, were making more money than college professor at St. John's. So my father took a job in Newark, and we bought a house in the Dalesburg section of Newark, and we moved to Newark.
That's when a teacher can raise a family on a teacher's salary.
Yep, raised 4 kids. My mother never worked a job.
Look what our country has become. We're not going to talk politics. We swore to that off.
All right, you swore that off. Yes, we did.
Right. But I just had to make note of the fact that the times, they are changing. Because all 3 of us grew up at basically the same time. And sometimes it's not only has baseball changed. Baseball's a microcosm of life. So imagine how life is changing. But let's just stick to the changes in baseball. I want to ask you guys, and I know the answer, you're National League guys, DH, yay or nay?
Oh, absolutely not for me.
Not for me either. No way.
Not for me. No.
No way.
Wow. For so many reasons. That's good answers. Okay, we're talking about moving. Let's talk about O'Malley, Robert Moses. You guys are the as I was saying, 2 of the 5 most educated people on the subject that I know. Discuss it with each other and tell me things that I can learn from.
I'm going to let Robert start off regarding his good friend, Walter O'Malley. I know he's dying to say a few nice things about Walter. Go ahead, Robert.
Okay. Basically, people need to know Walter O'Malley was unknown outside of Brooklyn, okay, until pretty much he took over as majority owner in 1950. He's given credit for being a tremendous lawyer, which he was not. He basically stumbled in with the Brooklyn Dodgers when he was looking for some work from the Brooklyn Trust Company, and he was appointed team attorney, and kind of chiseled his way into a part ownership with Branch Rickey when Branch Rickey was brought in the early 1940s to start run the Brooklyn Dodgers. O'Malley basically, when he took the team over in 1950, promised at that time that he was going to give the team back to the fans of Brooklyn, and that never really happened. Okay, what do you think about that, Peter?
Well, you know what? I thought you were going to talk about how he didn't upkeep the ballpark also. That's a big thing for me, personally.
Yes.
He let Ebbets Field go to seed. Do you want to talk about it, Robert, a little bit?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. When Larry McPhail took over the Brooklyn Dodgers, Ebbets Field was in disarray. It needed a lot of work. McPhail got some loans from the Brooklyn Trust Company, redid the bathrooms, redid the lighting, did a lot of different things. And basically that was the last time anything was ever done to Ebbets Field. Branch Rickey has to take some of that blame also. Rickey always thought that to get fans into the ballpark, you just put the best product on the field, and all the money he spent basically went into the players and new inventions and things to make the players better. When O'Malley took over, he promised the fans that he was going to change everything. I think the only money O'Malley spent from 1950 to 1957 was to change the lights when they needed changing, and every 3 to 4 years he would paint the seats. Other than that, he did absolutely nothing to the infrastructure and physical well-being of the ballpark.
When did he first, Peter told a story a while back, and would you remind me and anybody out there that might have heard it about when O'Malley first took a serious notion to moving? Because there was a lot of denials going down for a long time that the Dodgers, and this is back before 1955, before they won. Am I correct about that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Robert.
As early as 1952 and 53, O'Malley was making denials about looking at Los Angeles. And right along, he kept an eye on things. He was waiting for some sort of overture from Los Angeles that they were actually ready. I believe it was 1955, Phil Wrigley had Bill Veeck do a total business plan of the West Coast. Okay, Bill Veeck made that presentation at the winter meetings between 55 and 56, which indicated that Los Angeles was ready and San Francisco was ready to have Major League Baseball when Major League Baseball was ready to go there. It was a total business plan, where the money men were, where the best places for a ballpark were, the whole package. Every owner of every Major League team received the package. You can bet O'Malley kept his close to his chest.
Wow.
There were stories, you read so much, and all three of us do, but there are stories that I read that border on the crazy, like Bill Veeck, the guy you just mentioned, in 1941, had a plan to move the St. Louis Browns to Los Angeles, and the National League was going to vote on it on December the 8th, 1941. And of course, Pearl Harbor happened. They never had that meeting. They never voted on it. But those are the kind of stories that blow in the window, they blow out the window. They blow in the window, they blow out the window.
Right.
And whether they're true or they're apocryphal, they sure do make colorful conversations. And
that actually was a true story. I mean, they were ready to make that move. They had the plans already in place on. A team would go out there and spend a week and play games, with the team that was out there. So that was all ready to go. That was an absolute truth.
Right.
Wow.
But stories not unlike
naturally
that.
Before they moved to Baltimore.
Right. Well, that came much later.
Yeah.
But stories not unlike that fill days and nights for fellows like us.
Like us, right.
We're very
just
interested.
The thought of what would have been if Mrs. Payson, for instance, who was the lone dissenter when the board of directors of the Giants decided to move, what if she had more juice? What if she would have stood up and said, we can do something here? She had the money.
She obviously had the money. Ralph.
With them.
Yeah, what you have to remember, too, Ralph, is that the Giants, Stoneham wanted to move to Minneapolis.
Right, exactly.
Okay, he was ready to go. He asked for permission. Okay, O'Malley didn't want that to happen. In those days, all National League owners had to agree. It had to be 100%. O'Malley had a couple of owners, specifically Philadelphia Phillies, say that no, they were against the move, and that had to be put on the back burner. In reality, that would have been the best place for the Giants to go. That was where their farm team was. There was a new ballpark there. Almost all of their ball players came through Minneapolis, including Willie Mays, Orlando Cepeda, Willie Kirkland, all the guys that showed up in '58 when they moved to San Francisco.
Right.
Had that happened, the Washington Senators probably stay in Washington and don't move to Minnesota, and you have a whole different landscape.
Well, yeah, because they would have had instant competition there.
Yep.
But you couldn't have, O'Malley could not have gone out west without the Giants, because teams making a road trip out there, if they only had one team to play on the West Coast, couldn't be profitable. It's a long way to go, airlines and what have you. So
that's
O'Malley,
that's why O'Malley needed the Giants to go. He desperately needed Stoneham to go to San Fran.
Correct.
Now, I don't know if this is true, but I think the way O'Malley queered the Minneapolis deal is that he owned St. Paul as a farm club.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if I remember this correctly or not, but I think I heard that he claimed territorial rights to Minneapolis. And, I think Horace wasn't as diabolical. Horace was one of those sheep that went along. And it was all at O'Malley's doing. But Los Angeles laid stuff on O'Malley that you could almost go, well, these are some tidings here. I mean, free land, downtown Los Angeles? What are you talking about?
It was amazing what they gave him. They offered him the world. Usually when you get offered stuff like that, when push comes to shove, they pull back a lot of stuff. But everything they seemed to offer Walter, they actually gave him.
And
you know something?
They did pull some stuff back. I mean, the amount of land that was promised originally was made a little bit smaller, and things like that nature. But the
people on the East Coast here, we don't. Well, I'm not including you, Ralph, but back then you were here. People on the East Coast didn't understand that in 1958, when the Dodgers had officially made their announcement that they moved, the deal almost fell through again. They had to have a big, what do you call those 24-hour shows on television?
Telethon.
Like
telethon.
Jerry Lewis used to have, like a telethon. They had a telethon out there with the likes of Martin and Lewis and Frank Sinatra and everything to try to get the people to vote the right way. They were almost voted down, and they almost returned to Brooklyn with their tail between their legs in the spring of 1958.
Really?
Well, you remember?
Yeah,
the story about
that deal was not smooth. That deal was not smooth at all. Danny Kaye, Danny Thomas, everybody, they all raising money and raising funds and going on TV and having this telethon. You can Google that, and they were on there, and they had all the movie stars, and let's get the Dodgers. We need the Dodgers out here in L.A. and blah 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 and this and that. And it didn't win by much, believe me. When they voted, it was kind of a squeaker, but they got what they were looking for. Because they tried to tell O'Malley at the 11th hour, they tried to tell O'Malley, you're going to have to play in Wrigley Field, whatever. And O'Malley didn't want to play in Wrigley Field. There's only 22,000 seats.
Right.
Another story about that also, with that whole thing. Okay, Gene Autry was the one who allowed the telethon to be on his television network.
There you go. Okay.
Gene Autry's radio station was the station that played the Dodger games. Right after this telethon that Gene Autry allowed O'Malley to run, O'Malley canceled the contract with Gene Autry and gave the Dodger games to his rival network.
Wonderful.
And that's
nice guy.
Wonderful story of the wonderful Walter O'Malley.
But wait a minute, he let Gene Autry's Los Angeles Angels play in Dodger Stadium.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't just let him. I'm sure there was some retribution there.
I'm being facetious. Right. He took all the beer sales. He took all the parking sales. O'Malley.
Oh, really? I didn't know it was that.
He raped him.
And another funny story about that too is O'Malley charged the Angels for washing their ticket windows, and the Angels didn't have any ticket windows because their ticket office was in the basement.
That's Walter O'Malley, baby.
Let me honor Walter in a positive way, and I'm the last guy to do that because Campanella night. he filled that place. It was in dedication to Campy, and 60 some odd thousand, 90,000, whatever the Coliseum.
93,000.
90. Holy Toledo. They all stood up at a certain time and they lit matches
with cigarette lighters
in honor of the stricken Roy Campanella, who had tragically been in an automobile accident in February of 58, I guess it was. Or maybe it was in November, or it was in November of 57, right as they were moving. Poor Campy driving home from his liquor store, no seatbelts, icy road, and turned his car over or went into a ditch and became quadriplegic. It was horrible to see him that way. And but O'Malley brought him out as a spring training instructor. And took care of Campy. And
paid him his full salary.
Yeah, he paid
him his full salary for a few years. Yeah.
So I mean, people in general are gray. He's a lot more gray than most. You know, no one's perfect, but he doesn't even come freaking close. But the Campy thing really stuck with me because. If I'm not mistaken, there was some sort of donation of the ticket proceeds to the Campy Fund, or this is one time when he really did right by humanity, and we'll give him that. For the rest of it, it was tremendously egomaniacal. What was the story about? I think Peter, you might have told the story about how he told his kid that someday it's going to all be about me. It used to be about Branch Rickey, Mr. Rickey, and now when they see the stadium and all this, it's going to be O'Malley, and people are going to think. And even his kid looked at him like, "Whoa."
He was what he said to Peter O'Malley was, Peter was getting upset because hearing all the bad things that were being said about his father. And he said to Peter, don't worry about that, okay? Our new ballpark will be our testament. And
exactly how I heard it, Robert. Where did you hear that or read that? Was that from Bums or?
That was in a couple of different places. It was repeated several times.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where I got it. Because it's absolutely the same words I remember hearing. Is that the new ballpark, that'll be our testament. I mean, how about how you treated a borough in New York? I mean, it literally broke the spirit of Brooklyn. People all over the country, they can't understand the love for the Dodgers. If you go to the web and you look for New York Giant sites, nostalgia sites, there are a few of them. There are one that I love, the Polo Grounds on Facebook, and there's a New York Giant Society thing that doesn't really get as much, anywhere near as much play as the Dodgers sites. I'm going to ask you guys, from your standpoint, I know why, but what is the appeal of Brooklyn Dodgers to the rest of the world? Why does it stick so much?
Well, I think the Roger Kahn book, The Boys of Summer, kind of brought everybody's attention to it, and that really reopened things. But you have to remember, too, that the Dodgers were just not the team of Brooklyn, because of Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella. Fans from all over the country started following the Dodgers.
They were America's team.
Yes. They were America's team before the Atlanta Braves took that mantle for a couple of years.
Right.
But they were, the Dodgers are really a cross-section of society, and Brooklyn itself was a melting pot. You have to remember too. All nationalities, all races. I mean, it was just a little, a different type of a city.
I did my show with Peter Golenbach the other night about Brooklyn. 1 out of 7 of all Americans have some sort of roots in Brooklyn. That was the preface of a book he wrote, The Country of Brooklyn, talking about Brooklyn and not just from a baseball standpoint.
And that is a great book, by the way. I have that on my bookshelf.
Is it not? Yes. And for those of you out there, this is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. We have 4 now, specifically baseball podcasts. We have a show a day. We have 7 podcasts going out, and I just talked to some wonderful people. My idea, I'm an old guy. I just want to keep learning until I die. That's why you can't know too much, because my curiosity, and plus I got to replace the things that I forget too. So it's like got to fill up the tank every now and again. But I can forget birthdays. I can forget my own where the hell are my pants. I know who played second base for the Cubs in 1962. That kind of thing, or for the Dodgers, the Giants. It's a crazy mind that I was blessed with, and that was Kenny Hubbs, ladies and gentlemen, the late great Kenny Hubbs, who died tragically too soon. You're next, Peter. You kind of we've done this. We've reached about the limit. I've enjoyed both your companies. I want you both to wrap it up from your standpoint as well as you can, because this topic, none of us, Giant fan, Dodger fan, baseball fan, will never get over this move. It was tragic. And and for a kid, for a human being, I had a psychologist who was a friend. Look at what I was telling her about how it was when I was 10 years old, not even 11 in my team. She says, you don't realize you were damaged by that. That was a loss. And it doesn't have to come where you lose your girlfriend or this or that, which is enough loss goes on with all of us, over the period of a lifetime. It's a loss that people don't put into words that affects them. They don't go to a psychologist and say, yeah, could you help me? I'm still, I miss Pee Wee Reese. He had a good year in 59.
That's funny.
Yeah, right. But deep down, you probably miss Pee Wee Reese more than the woman who you can't even remember her name now. You cried. You had your head in the sand one day, and you were crying real tears. And now you look back,
she never turned the double play in the bottom of the 9th inning for me either.
Right. Well, that one time, but that was my birthday.
Yeah, no, we don't want to talk about that.
No, we don't, because this is...
All right, I'm going to wrap it up real fast on my end.
We'll wrap it up, and we'll talk... before we wrap it up,
Go ahead.
After we talk, your memories. Last time we talked, you and I, we talked mostly Jackie. Both of your memories of Willie, because I think one of the real worst part of them moving, we missed Willie in his prime. Give me, as an opponent, as somebody you rooted against, give me your memories, gentlemen, of Mr. Willie Howard Mays.
I'll go first because I'm going to be brief. Willie, if you don't mind, Robert, Willie was the best ball player I ever saw. I never in my life saw anyone better than Willie. I've seen great ball players have great years. I've seen people such as the kid, what's his name, Ken Griffey Jr. out in Seattle have a couple of years that were like scary and stuff. Okay, I have seen some great ball players, and I've seen some great seasons from them. But if someone were to sit me down and say, look, you're this big baseball freak and everything, who's the greatest ball player you ever saw? Without hesitation, I would say Willie Mays. Now, if I were much, much older, maybe that name would be different. Could be Tyko, could be Babe Ruth, whatever. I saw Willie Mays. And that's weird because, A, I'm a Dodger fan, and B, when I really got to see Willie, he was like, I'm not going to say he was past his prime because he was not, but he certainly wasn't a young buck like he was with DeRocher. By the time I was cognizant of this ball player, he was well up there. He was, I'm not saying he was 35 or anything, but he was like 30, and he was doing his due diligence out in Candlestick Park. But he was just tremendous. He was just absolutely, positively great with a capital G. What a ball player. What a ball player. And like the other guys of his era, Mantle and Musial and people like that, they were small. They were 5'10", 5'11". They weighed 180 at the most. They were not huge men. They were not built like Frank Howard or anything like that. This guy was a marvel. He was tremendous. And I'm sorry I took longer than I said I would, Robert. Go ahead.
No, I'm the only thing I'm sorry you understated it all.
Oh. The thing I remember
about you, Robert.
Well, yes, he was the best ball player I ever saw in person. But the tragedy of it was when he moved out to San Francisco. Okay, he was robbed of a lot of his adulation. The people in San Francisco did not treat him like the people in New York did. Okay, Orlando Cepeda, Willie McCovey, Jim Davenport. They were San Francisco Giants. Willie was always considered an outsider out there.
He won them over eventually. It took a long, long time. And they gave him a housing problem, a little prejudice thing going on in a very fancy neighborhood in San Francisco where he couldn't buy there. And they gave him he bought there. They threw rocks in the window. It was difficult. And he was so pampered by Leo as well. And emotionally, I mean, he was a great baseball player, but he wasn't particularly prepared for life, as most of us aren't. And he had some money problems that took a long time to get solved. I remember Herman Franks was a coach with them, and he was this investor, and he pulled Willie's tail out of some hot water. But boy, I'll tell you, he was something. That's the only thing I can say to that. How do you put Willie Mays in words? There was a joy to the game when he was out there. There was, and much like Jackie, he could take, and Ricky Henderson, those guys, he could take over a game.
Yes,
he could beat you with a great catch, a great throw to the right base at the right time, to just a clutch hit that goes into right field, opposite field hit at just the right time to get that one run in and win the game. Let alone,
I have a stat for you. You guys are going to love this.
Okay.
In Willie Mays' I looked it up today. In Willie Mays' career, when his team won, and that was like 1,600 and something times, Willie hit 341 lifetime. When his team lost, which was like 1,300 times, Willie hit 251. So the way I interpret that is if Willie's hitting, baby, we're winning.
That's right.
Right. Absolutely.
That's the way I see it.
There was a time when they did, with Willie out of there, they didn't win games, literally. In the 60s, they couldn't give this guy a day off because they wouldn't win games. He just a marvel. And he's getting up there, too, like all of our heroes. Their mortality is winning this game of life in a very, very big way. So I'm glad I get to do this with Peter and on a regular basis. And I'm delighted, Robert, that you joined us. And, It's really, really terrific. And if either of you guys want to say anything you got going, anybody you want to plug, anything in your life, that's what this is all about. It's selfless self-promotion.
Well, before I go, I want Robert to know, and you too, but especially Robert, that Willie Mays hit 355 lifetime at Ebbets Field.
Whoa.
In case you were wondering.
Yeah. Right. Whoa. I'll give you a little funny Willie Mays story. Willie Mays beat out Don Mueller, a slow-footed right fielder, to his center field. He beat him out for the batting title in, I think it was 54. And he beat him like a quarter of a point or an eighth of a point on the batting. It was that close, right? So Mueller comes up to Mays in the locker room, and he says, well, if I have to lose, I'm losing to the best center fielder ever. And Mays looks at Mueller and he says, best right fielder, too. Because
Mueller was very slow, I remember.
He was just kind of a slug out there. But Mandrake could hit, and, now that I think of it, Mandrake is the reason that you and I, the three of us, are talking, and I had any indication of doing podcast radio. In 1970-something, I had this overwhelming nostalgia for baseball cards, this, that, and the other thing. You both know that I worked for Topps for a long time as a result of my fanaticism, and that started in the 80s. But in the 70s, I said, geez, I got to keep in touch with my old past. So I said, I called up Don Mueller living in Illinois. I read somewhere he's retired, he's dead. And I said to Don Mueller on the phone, I said, Mr. Mueller, I said, my name is Ralph. I said, I was a fan of Polo Ground. I sat in the right field bleachers right over you at 22 is my thing. Do you mind chatting with me for a few minutes? And he says, oh, man, I'd be delighted. And
wow.
Just like that.
Wow.
I'd be delighted, yeah. And we talked for about a half an hour, an interview such as I do then. And had he said, get the hell off the line, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Big league me or something like that. Because it's the kind of call I used to make as a kid when Sam Huff was living in Flushing. And I called him up on the phone. He had a listed number. And I said, Mr. Huff, you don't sound like a mean guy in your interviews. What's this violent world of Sam Huff? And he kind of laughed, and we talked for, But I thought, wow, I just enjoy talking about the old days. And that was back 40 years ago. Imagine how old these days are now. So, and one more final story. My friend out here is a San Francisco Giant fan. He goes, well, it's an even year. So I said, yeah, they've been out in San Francisco even longer than they were last year. I can't let it go. I can't. Although I'm an apologist, I've enjoyed watching them over the years. I probably went to more games at the Stick than any other ballpark, all the other ballparks combined in my life. And I get to talk to Timmy Haller, Tom Haller's kid, former minor league player himself, on another show I do, which is Bay Area Baseball, past, present, and future.
How about John DeQuisto, or don't you
I talked
have
to
a relationship?
John DeQuisto, and another guy who's old San Francisco Giant and a tremendous artist. If you want to go to Facebook and look him up on Facebook.
I saw it. I did. He's excellent.
That's I always give John a free commercial because anybody out there, if he's, I admire guys who can do. I can tie both shoes at the same time. Am I multi-talented in the same day? Am I multi-talented? Mm-hmm. This guy threw a baseball 102 miles an hour and paints beautiful and is an artist. Amazing.
Yeah, and he's great. He's good.
I admire people such as I'm living a dream world, talking to folks every day only because of the good response. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. Don Mueller, a former New York Giant. So we've had a name change of the show. We are now, when the Giants and Dodgers played in New York, and
there you go.
There you go. And you were there when it happened, Robert Cole. Would you come back and visit us more than from time to time, all the time?
Absolutely.
You enjoyed it?
Oh, very much so.
Oh, good. That's all. And Peter, I know, did, because we've been enjoying each other's company since way before the Facebook days. We would talk.
This is good. This is good stuff.
Yeah. This is pretty cool, huh?
It is.
Yeah. I'm living this life of just of wonderment, because it is, and we're all deserving of it. We're deserving of what we think we're deserving of. Let's put it that way. There's
all right.
Something to think about for you young folks out there. If you think you don't deserve what you're getting, you don't. If you think you do, you do. It's all your mindset. And that's my cheap 20-cent philosophy for the day. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll end the show by just saying to everybody, keep on keeping on. It's not easy to do sometimes. Life's up, life's down. Try to keep it on an even keel. And come back next week. Check out some of the other shows. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, comfortablyzoned.com. If you just do that, you'll get the website. You'll be able to browse the different shows and enjoy. It's about having fun, and that's what we're doing. Next week, Peter.
Okay.
Okay. Same time, same place.
Okay, I'm ready.
Robert,
I'm ready.
All right. Thank you again, gentlemen. And
thanks, Robert. Good hearing your voice, Robert.
Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. You put a voice to a face and a Facebook post after all these years. Really good hearing your voice.
Same here.
All right. See you guys.
Good night.
Whoa, it's not going off. Okay. Are you guys still with me?